Ah, yes, this is the big question. This is the one I was waiting for. Now, in case you don't recall, kiddos, I was one of the very first to advocate for white Sharia with the White Sharia Space Marine rape gangs. White Sharia Space Marine rape gang song I sang for the war room. Now, that was back in January when the term was still risky business, before it was being promoted by our leaders, before it was cool. And I sure as hell got a lot of flack from it. But look how far the meme has come now. And all those who criticize me for singing that beautiful song can now be officially counted as low-T cucks. I think it's an excellent meme, and the name is perfect. Why? Because we finally found something that shocks, that radicalizes even us Nazis. And as a shock artist for 10 years, I know just how important that is for getting an idea through someone's skull. Also, it's funny because feminists will be ravenously advocating for Sharia law until you put white in front of it. Clearly they want Sharia law, they're begging for it, and deep down they only want to date their own race, so why not give them just what they want? The stats are there with their porn searches. Their greatest fantasy is to be dominated and raped by a man they trust. So what better man to trust than their loyal provider husband that's assigned to them?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
All memes aside, though, the fact is that we need a form of emergency racial reconstruction, an extreme method in reaction to the insane female liberation that is destroying us today. 2% of white women are of childbearing age. 2% people. 2% of the worldwide population are white women of childbearing age. Can you believe it? If we don't act with immediate force, we will die out. Simple as that. At first I thought I would like white Sharia to be temporary, for it to eventually work its way to being a trad society, in the vein of Victorian, where we don't necessarily have to force our women to marry and breed. But then I realized that trad society is synonymous with white Sharia. No ifs, ands, or buts. Just as boomers can't truly argue for the Constitution without arguing for white nationalism, you can't truly argue for traditionalism without advocating for white Sharia. Weave's article on the subject said it best, and I quote, "Couverture was the reality for all of European history up until the mid and late 19th century. The basic principle of couverture is that the rights of the woman are completely subsumed into that of her husband's. A married woman could not own property, sign legal documents, or enter into a contract, obtain an education against her husband's wishes, or keep a salary for herself. Any restoration of traditional gender roles starts by restoring couverture." End quote. Similarly, a woman was her father's property until she married, then became her husband's. That's how the tradition of the father giving away his daughter at her wedding came about. It's not just a meme, it's literal. So bingo, white Sharia. So if you really want to be trad, I'm sorry, but there's no other way. If you truly want to reinstate patriarchy, you must reinstate all that is fundamentally included. Unless you want some bastardized form of trad like the 1950s, but the Great Demise was already well on its way by then. Kids were being rapidly born out of wedlock. Traditionalism had already been murdered, and it was just a matter of time until the average American family felt it and died out. I'll admit for a while I thought it sounded harsh, but then I'd go on Facebook and see these women with healthy wombs literally wasting all hours of their youth, posting pictures of themselves, and doing absolutely nothing, when at the very least they could be reconstructing the race, and it's absolutely disgusting. If you guys go on Twitter, there's an epidemic of girls turning into twink boys. Yes, twink boys. And by that, they cut their hair really short, put on some glasses, get a lip piercing, and say, "I'm a boy now, I'm boyfriend material." And they really believe this, and it's disgusting. And if you've ever seen of the blue whale suicide cult, there was a good article on the Stormer about that. The young girls are just mutilating themselves with whale pictures and killing themselves for no reason at all. These white women need to be removed from the internet, reprogrammed, and bred until the mind virus is eradicated. Wasting perfectly good wombs, and for absolutely no gains in return. Nothing. 90% have no passion, no goals, no ambitions, nothing. They need to be put to work. And unfortunately, for the female masses, breeding is the only work they'll ever be somewhat decent at. They're killing themselves, drinking themselves to death, and drowning in their own narcissism and social media, all so they can get a mate. Well, it clearly isn't working, and they certainly have been proven incapable of securing a mate for themselves, so the only sensible solution would be to assign mates for them. High IQ mates, with a best possible seed to ensure good offspring, which unfortunately for some, and fortunately for others, would require the best men inseminating multiple women. At least until we have inflated the number of white childbearing aged women to at least 10% of worldwide population, and reverse the dysgenic trend. I really don't want to advocate for polygamy, and believe me, I'm not. But we at least need to find a way for high IQ men to produce the most children, as our race has already been disgustingly eroded by dysgenics and need emergency reconstruction. We need more geniuses. Moldylocks is the poster child for why we need white Sharia. She was the last straw for me to go all in. Now, I myself would have strongly benefited from white Sharia. As much as it pains me to say it, I can identify with that crusty whore Moldylocks. I was the result of a broken home, no father, being raised by a single mother, which caused me to almost completely go off the edge. I went on a path of self-destruction once I left college, rode my bike compulsively across highways, hung out under bridges, did deep hood walks, all for the rush and the thrill. In reality, I was just looking for a home, the home I never had, and the discipline and guidance of a man to keep me out of danger. In a trad society, I would have been married off by the time I was 16 to an equally virginal man, and the pair bonding that is so important when each partner is a virgin would have ensured a stable marriage. I could have stayed home and been cared for, not worrying about basic survival and paying bills. I could have used more of my time to animate, made my own delicious meals instead of eating Zog waste, and raised a family. I could have had a couple of beautiful white children by now, animated a few more sober, coherent masterpieces instead of the bits of trash I produced half-baked during my college years. Instead, I damaged my brain and my spirit with drugs and alcohol, pointless and dangerous misadventures, wasting my precious early womanhood. I could have had a good husband, an older male in my life to take care of me and teach me things, a male role model that I could look up to, like I craved for so many years. I could have giggled and blushed a few years longer before the brainwashing eroded my spirit and soul, becoming a stump of what I could have been in my most important fertile years. I had to come to painful terms with the fact that I'll never be a pure, virginal, 2D trad wife waifu, with no pain or torment in her heart. The Jews, with their calculated plans, turned me into a depraved degenerate, a monster devoid of all things natural and feminine, and tried to suck my soul out, and folks, they almost succeeded. For a while I was hanging by a thread. I had nearly become yet another victim on the altar of feminism, another dead end on her waste's bloodline, on her race's bloodline, another wasted womb. I was ravaged by Zog for years, and when I finally started to wake up and resist, when I finally started to stand up for myself and told the world I was not going to go down like the other ones, that I wanted to live and love and let my people live, the Jews tried to snuff me out entirely by getting me fired and ensuring I'd never make money or have a normal life again. But they didn't suck my soul out, folks, no matter how much they tried. In the end, I still have it, and I'm reconstructing and rebuilding it, piece by broken piece. Thanks to white nationalism, I have a purpose. I have roots in a community where I didn't have one before. I have a whole history of white male role models to look up to, and now I know that one day I can have a family, a husband and children, when before they told me that wasn't possible and that I would die alone. But until that day comes, I have nothing to live for in this wretched hellhole except to get revenge. To ensure what happened to me doesn't happen to more white girls. To make sure Zog doesn't destroy any more white children. To fight for the 14 words. The Jews destroyed my youth, and now I will do everything in my humanly power to destroy them.
I think that was the greatest shill video for fucking white Sharia ever. I mean,
Really?
I'm just saying. Like, I want to edit that out so it's just its own pro-white Sharia thing. It was great.
I think you should. I think we should cut right to that, and we can make an independent video. Emily Youcis on white Sharia, and yes. I think it's going to go viral. Now, yes. I have more. I'm not done yet.
You're not done. All right.
I'm not done.
All right. I'm sorry.
All right. No. Don't. It's sad how these kids, Moldylocks and the other wretches, know they're ruined by society, but don't put the blame on the Jews. Instead, they redirect the blame onto their white parents, blame it on the last safe haven left in this world, the suburban household mom and dad raised them in, and in turn all white people. And while shitty white parents must take responsibility for their faulty parenting, those kids still can't see the root of the problem. That is, the deliberate, calculated plan for the total breakdown and destruction of the family as designed by the Jews. These crusty kids are rebelling against the Jews and they don't even realize it. Antifa is fighting against banks, capitalism, and usury just as we are. If only they could reason and realize that Hitler fought against the very same things. But back to white Sharia. Don't worry, girls. The burqa is a meme. We'd be going back to the lovely modest clothes of real traditionalism, which give women infinitely more dignity than the gross objectifying slut shit they sell in stores to all the 12-year-old girls. Ladies, do you want to stop being objectified? Stop being all of that? Stop being seen as just a body? Get your dignity back? If you truly want that, then girls, it's time to vote for white Sharia. If you were allowed to vote, that is. And ladies, if you're worried that this is going to mean you're going to get the shit beat out of you daily, don't. Luckily for you, your husbands won't be shitskins, and the vast majority of white men are nonviolent. Unfortunately, it seems, too, that when women are allowed to freely choose their partners, they gravitate towards the worst possible men, those that do beat them, and they keep returning no matter what help they get. Do you think that in a white Sharia world, a good father would allow his daughter to marry a man who beats her? Of course not. And so she would be spared the chance of falling into the wrong hands. And don't forget, ladies, according to numerous studies, women commit the vast majority of domestic violence. And so it seems, white Sharia will be the big divide in the white nationalist movements. Much like the alt-right versus alt-light. It's official. White Sharia is the new destination for the Overton window. So if you bash white Sharia, you're punching right, whether you like it or not. And for you men who think white Sharia is too raunchy, too barbaric, that it's for shitskins, we're not looking up to the Ubermensch Muslims, as you like to say. We're literally just looking back to the European societies of old, the ones that got us here in the first place. True traditionalism. So quit it with that meme. We don't have time to be nice, pure, and polite. We are at war. We need white Sharia now.